So we can stack up all the positives. I mean, I know you've been kind of in gear with that idea that the economy would power through, inflation would come down, the Fed could become friendlier, earnings are going higher. Big question to me is how do we set expectations for the year to come, given that that's all in the books?
It's a great question because, you know, we have two back-to-back 20% years, and now investors are wondering how much good news is baked in. But if we look at the 2025 environment, it's a great setup because we have a new administration coming in that's maybe pro-animal spirits, you know, a Trump put. We have a dovish Fed, and as you're pointing out, interest rates are kind of calming down after rising. And we know there's still $7 trillion of cash on the sidelines, and I think sentiment's coming back into check. You mentioned that before with the AAII numbers. So I think it's a good setup for investors. I wouldn't be too worried about the next 12 months.
So don't be too worried. I mean, it seems as if there are all these supportive factors, and when you mentioned the 20% up years in a row, history says actually, you know, the following year is up more often than not as well. What do you mean, do you think, specifically by the new administration being pro-animal spirits? First of all, it's true.
Yeah.
You've kind of seen it at work. It seems to pull in that direction, but are there specifics that the market is fixated on that it's going to drive that dynamic?
Yes, I think that the market's trying to figure out exactly how this animal spirits plays out in markets, but I would say we've got a Treasury Secretary that equity markets approve of. We do know that the last Trump presidency cared very much about what stock prices do, and Jeremy Siegel said this is the most stock market focused president ever. And I think that the uncertainty is around trade and the potential risks around tariffs, but we'll have to see. I mean, that's something markets are going to have to deal with it from an uncertainty perspective.
It's interesting to me that, you know, the way the market has behaved in the last several weeks, but even going into the election, was we need to own more cyclicals, we need to own more financial stocks, we're going to reprice this market for maybe a growth acceleration even, or at least maintaining above trend growth. Meanwhile, though, we're only a couple months removed from a pretty big growth scare. Job growth has kind of slowed to a point. The housing market seems pretty locked up. It's kind of interesting how the sentiment has kind of jumped ahead. Is the economic numbers positioned to actually validate that view?
Markets tend to be forward-looking, so I would expect this. I know there has been a recession in durable goods and in housing and auto sales, principally because of high rates, which have made affordability an issue. That's really on the come next year. I mean, I think the spread of 10 years and mortgages should come down, and the 10-year hopefully behaves. And I think if there's more confidence and more supply, I think housing actually could lead this recovery. I mean, I think that's why home builders actually started to act better this week as well.
Yes, they seem very sensitive too to yields, you know, sort of halting their rise as well. I guess the question is, if we believe it's still a supportive environment, and pretty much all the things you can identify would suggest you shouldn't be too worried about next year. The second question is something like the S&P 500 the best vehicle to capitalize on that?
I think investors are still trying to figure this out. We did a survey with our institutional investors and our RIA clients last week. The majority of institutional investors don't think FANG is the leading trade. They're actually betting on cyclicals. But if you look at the RIA world, the majority are betting on FANG. So I think the market is still undecided whether to be long the Mag 7 or the cyclicals. I'm inclined to be more cyclical and bet even on small caps having a very big year next year.
Yeah.
In the ever-evolving world of technology and finance, seismic shifts don't occur every day. But when they do, they capture the attention of global investors and industry leaders. Such is the case with Nvidia's latest strategic leap. Jensen Huang, Nvidia's visionary founder and chief executive, has unveiled a groundbreaking partnership with the Vietnamese government, a move that is sending ripples throughout the international stock markets. The core of this exciting announcement is a collaborative effort to establish an advanced artificial intelligence research and development center in Vietnam, marking a pivotal chapter in Nvidia's ongoing journey of innovation and expansion. This venture is not merely about the infrastructure itself, but hints at a broader narrative involving some of the tech industry's most renowned entities. For those keeping an eye on transformative opportunities, this report serves as a gateway to understanding how Nvidia plans to redefine the AI landscape and explore the boundless potential that Southeast Asia offers as a new frontier for AI advancement. So, hold your breath as we peel back the layers of this development and examine what it means for forward-thinking investors. Welcome back, everyone, to Investocracy.
Nvidia's been interesting in that even with all these lofty expectations, some of the scuttlebutt this week was that Rubin might actually be ahead of schedule and might be able to allow you to incorporate some more aggressive numbers for 25. That name just, it doesn't look back, it seems, Paul.
Yeah, the interesting thing here is people assume that it's egregiously overpriced because the stock did indeed triple in 23. It's going to about triple this year. So how can it be cheap? Well, in the meantime, their earnings and cash flow have grown much faster than that. So on a PEG basis, right, price to growth rate, I still think Nvidia is reasonable. It's not cheap. I think it's reasonable. And I think it's more reasonably priced than some of the other better named tech stocks that people have kind of lured themselves into because they see relative value opportunities. I don't get that. And the Blackwell chip, what you're referring to, yeah, they might have some manufacturing issues in the first quarter. But the interesting thing is they're so far ahead with the technology that if they have any manufacturing stall, it is going to just delay sales that will come to them on the other side. It's not like they're going to go to Advanced Micro Devices or Intel, the gang that can't shoot straight. They'll be just fine, even if they end up having a manufacturing delay. And hey, we're all human beings. That may happen at some point.
Just to go back, Paul, it's just striking me what you said a couple of questions ago. Every fresh new dollar you get goes to Nvidia or Amazon. Is that what you said?
No, I'm just saying that I have a much broader portfolio, including the cast of characters that you're familiar with. But if money was to come today, right, I'm really going to only be aggressive with those two names among the Mag 7.
Nvidia is no stranger to ambitious projects, and its latest initiative further underscores the company's relentless pursuit of excellence. Jensen Huang's foresight has catalyzed the establishment of a strategic alliance with Vietnam, steering toward the ambitious transformation of Southeast Asia into a thriving hub for AI development. This alliance is epitomized by the creation of an AI Research and Development Center, realized in partnership with the Vietnamese government and the VTEL Group Data Center. Such ventures highlight a burgeoning climate of innovation, with Nvidia acquiring Vingroup JSC's AI subsidiary, VinBrain, a promising healthcare startup poised to revolutionize medical technology on a global scale. But before we go any further, if you want to keep up with Nvidia's latest updates and keep up with the stock market's latest news, you can follow our Twitter account. We post multiple times daily about the biggest changes and catalysts in the market, so click the follow button if you don't want to miss the newest market updates.
And we've been showing this all week, the diverging paths of software versus semis in the market, which really started about 6 months ago in a narrow way and then started to extend itself in the last couple of months. Is there a message in that? How do you view those spaces if you look at it from that granular a level?
Well, I don't usually go that granular, Scott. I think in terms of the AI revolution in general, the story, the narrative is still intact. It has the potential to be a game changer for productivity. That is very, very good for stocks, whether semiconductors versus the chips. And we still don't know. I mean, there's more than one firm that is entering. I mean, you take a look at a little weakness in Nvidia today because of potential competition. We know there always can be competition. There always has. No one has stayed on the top of the heap forever, if you look at history. But it doesn't mean that this story has ended yet. And as I mentioned, the narrative is still very strong.
Nvidia's strategic motives align seamlessly with Vietnam's intentions to amplify its semiconductor industry, envisioning a spectacular revenue growth target of over $100 billion by 2050. With the country's strategic positioning as an ideal investment ground, foreign investors like Nvidia are reaping the benefits of Vietnam's accommodating policies, such as complete ownership rights of data centers. Already, industry titans like Amazon and Foxconn are beginning to plant their roots in Vietnam, reflecting a shared confidence in the country's emerging tech economy. During a recent diplomatic journey across Southeast Asia, Jensen Huang held substantial talks with Thailand's Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra, reinforcing Nvidia's ambitions to fortify AI infrastructure beyond Vietnam's borders. These endeavors illustrate a dynamic shift towards AI and semiconductor self-reliance within the region, indicating a move away from traditional Chinese supply chain monopolies. Analysts from esteemed institutions like J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs have consistently praised Nvidia for its position as a top-tier investment in the AI sector, underpinned by their state-of-the-art hardware and software prowess. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
Let's get more now on Nvidia and the move in semis today with our Seema Modi. Hi, Seema.
Hey, Scott, you touched on trade and geopolitics. With China's investigation into Nvidia's anti-monopoly practices is widely seen by the street as a negotiating tactic. It comes 1 week after the U.S. Commerce Department hit Beijing with new export controls that takes aim at the broader semiconductor industry. The Council on Foreign Relations fellow David Sachs says by launching a probe into the most valuable company in the world, China is signaling that it can inflict pain on the U.S. and if President-elect Trump decides to levy tariffs on China. In terms of market share, China is an important market. It makes up less of Nvidia's total revenues today, which at one point were around 25%, Scott, now closer to around 10 to 12%. That's according to analyst estimates. Shares of Nvidia, along with other chip stocks, are trading lower today on this news and, worth noting, have underperformed the broader tech sector since the U.S. election, Scott.
Nvidia's strategic expansions underscore its role not just as a participant riding the AI growth wave, but as a formidable force actively molding the future contours of this vital industry. With its stock appreciating over 200% year-to-date, Nvidia's stronghold in the financial market is unequivocal. For stakeholders and investors alike, these developments demand close attention, particularly in light of the promising outlook associated with Nvidia's initiatives in Southeast Asia. In the ever-shifting world of global technology investments, opportunities of this magnitude are rare and precious. As we wrap up this overview, we pose a question to our readers and investors. Are you prepared to engage with the transformative momentum Nvidia is driving within the AI sector? We eagerly invite you to share your thoughts on whether this new venture aligns with your investment strategies and how you believe it might influence the industry's landscape. The floor is open. We welcome your valuable insights. And finally, if you would like to know what companies like Nvidia have been up to these past few days, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.